It has been a number of months and a Christmas season since my last book haul, so I've decided we're going to do some book hauling. So let's look at some book mail. Let's look at the mail and the books I've picked up in the last 2 months and Christmas, 3 months, something like that. To begin with, I got the broken binding edition of Bookshops and Bone Dust. Even the right side way. Right side way. Right way up. I much prefer the US covers. I prefer illustrations over the more typography, iconography type designs. So I was really excited when Broken Binding said they were doing a special edition, because this one comes with really nice sprayed edges, as well as a really nice naked hardback. This does match their edition of Legends and Lattes. And I do believe they still have stock of both on their website, so I will leave a link to that in the description below. I have already read this, I did enjoy it. It didn't quite live up to Legends and Lattes for me. There were some elements of the story that I did prefer over Legends and Lattes, but overall, it didn't quite have the allure of Legends and Lattes for me, personally. If you read Legends and Lattes and really enjoyed it, I do recommend checking this one out. It's still very cozy, great atmospheric read, adorable side characters, maybe not quite to the level of Legends and Lattes, but still a pretty fun time. Let's just get all the Broken Binding editions done first and out the way. Next up we have The Will of the Many. Now this edition is absolutely stunning. I love the new design of the cover, and it does have the original cover but in red as a reversible jacket. But again, I prefer the illustration cover, and this was done by the amazing Katrina Prince, who does a lot of work with the Broken Binding. She also did a lot of the design work with the sprayed edges and the naked hardback. Now I've talked about this on a couple videos because it was in so many people's top reads of 2023, so I knew I had to grab a copy. I don't really know much about it other than it is Roman inspired. However, I don't think I need to know much more because it's on so many people's top reads of the year. I am so excited to get to this one soon, very soon. And also, I think this might be my favorite edition from Broken Binding yet. I just love that cover and the design work around it. Oh, so good. Next up, the 2 Broken Binding subscription books, The Crimson Campaign and The Autumn Republic. This is book 2 and 3 in the Powder Mage trilogy. I was sold with gunpowder magic. That just sounds so good. And I really love what they've done with this set. The sprayed edges are beautiful. It has this really nice battle scene on them. And I do think that the original covers are just really, really nice as well. But the real magic of this set from Broken Binding, I think, is the naked hardbacks. They went with a full illustration straight onto the naked hardback, and I just think they look really, really good. I do really hope that they do more in this style because I think it looks terrific. I'm not normally a big fan of lifelike or almost lifelike art, especially in fantasy, but I think it works really well with sort of military fantasy. It gives it this more realistic, almost history book-like aesthetic, and I really, really enjoyed it in this case. They did also run a Black Friday sale, and I picked up 2 books. First of all, I got Ascension, which is meant to be this very trippy, very thought-heavy sci-fi book. I believe it's meant to be very thoughtful, very philosophical, kind of bizarre. It's a lot shorter than I thought, which is probably quite appealing for me right now because I'm reading a lot of really chunky books at the start of this year. It is just a stunning cover and it carries across onto the sprayed edges. I also got Malevolent 7, which is meant to be quite a funny book. I know that Andy Peliquin, the author of the Darkblade Assassin series, really enjoyed this book, and I've started to realize I really like comedy in fantasy books. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I quite enjoyed Dungeon Crawler Carl. Those books were terrific. So I'm kind of on the hunt to find more comedy in fantasy, and you'll see another one on this list very soon. But I'm looking forward to picking up the Malevolent 7. I was also very kindly sent some books from some indie authors, including A Prophecy Unsung by Adam Bishop. This is the sequel to A Sea of Cinders. This second one seems to be quite a step up in storytelling scope, as you can tell by the size. Both covers have this really intriguing eye design, which I actually really like. It's something I've not seen before, and I know that there's elves and wars, and it just sounds like a really good classic fantasy time. And I do plan on reading A Sea of Cinders very, very soon. I was also sent Michael Mitchell's The Price of Power. Now this cover is stunning. And I also grabbed the prequel novella War Song, which you can get completely for free by joining up to his mailing list. But The Price of Power is meant to be a grimdark book It's meant to be very character-led, and I am friends with Michael, but also Andy Peliquin has been raving about how good this book is as well. And from the sounds of it, it just ticks a lot of boxes that I enjoy in fantasy. So I'm really looking forward to picking that up. I might read War Song first, just to get a taste of the world and the writing style, and then move on to A Price of Power after that. One of my most anticipated reads of 2024 was The Silver Blood Promise, and I was super lucky to get an arc of this book, and I'm planning on picking this up next. I am so looking forward to reading this book. And I know I keep saying I'm going to get to it soon, I'm going to get to it soon, because there are so many books that just sound so good. But this was compared to Lies of Locke Lamora, Foundry Side, and First Law. I believe it has this thieves heist type tone. This cover is absolutely stunning by Jeff Brown, who's just an incredible artist. He's done so many incredible covers. Next up, Galans were nice enough to send me an early copy of A Narrow Road Between Desires by Patrick Rothfuss. Now this follows the story of Bast, a character in the Kingkiller Chronicles main books. Originally, Bast's story was told in Rogues, in a short story called The Lightning Tree. However, I've not read The Lightning Tree, and this is a much expanded and apparently much better version of the story, and it comes with really nice illustrations, which I got as these beautiful postcards. There is nothing like Patrick Rothfuss's prose. I can't get over just the atmosphere and tone he creates in just a couple sentences. Don't know why my voice gave out there. I'm not joking up over it though. But it really is some of the most beautiful prose in the whole of the fantasy genre. So it's amazing returning to this world. And because of those exact reasons, I had to pick up the Galans Emporium editions of the Kingkiller Chronicles. I absolutely love the covers, love the sprayed edges, and the designs on the naked hardback. They really are just beautiful. And like I said, these stories are so atmospheric and just completely immersive, and it's definitely a series that I want to reread again. And I can't wait to read these stories again with these stunning editions. And lastly, we have the books that I got for Christmas. Starting with Flames of Mira. I have talked about this book a lot as well, and I did have the ARC paperback. However, I wanted to get the full hardback because it is one of my favorite books. I love this book so much, and I cannot wait for the sequel coming out in July. I'll be honest, the main reason I really wanted this was because it has a map in it, and the ARC copy didn't have a map, so I'm actually able to see now the different places where Ig and the other characters get to visit, and it's a very cool map. And I'll definitely be rereading this before the sequel. Next up, I got The Crew by Sadir S. Samir. This is another comedy fantasy book. It's meant to be really funny. And like I said with The Malevolent Seven, I really want to try more comedy fantasy books. I know the obvious pick is Pratchett, which I do plan to read as well. However, I do want to pick up some other ones that are maybe lesser known and try them out as well. This is a self-published book, and it's just, what I've heard is completely out there and wacky, and it just sounds incredible. There are exploding fish. I'll be honest, I don't know much more than that, but that was enough to sell me on the book. Exploding fish? I'm in. Where'd I get a copy? Really does just sound completely out there and bizarre. It's kind of got almost Suicide Squad-esque vibes, because it says on the back, this ain't a job for the good guys. So I think it has a very eclectic cast with this crew that go on this adventure. So I'm really looking forward to giving this one a read. Last, but most certainly not least, we have Tegana by Guy Gavriel Kay. Now, Guy Gavriel Kay is said to be the author for authors. I've heard a lot of authors say that they are really inspired by his work. They think he's one of the most underrated authors of our time. I remember the interview over on Daniel Green's channel with Joe Abercrombie and Brandon Sanderson. They were singing his praises, and he's just meant to be a really, really good author that not enough people talk about. And I'm finally taking the plunge with Tegana. Now this is a standalone, which was my main draw to it, because I don't read a ton of standalone fantasy books, and I think it would just be a really good way to get into his work. I have heard this is quite different from his other works, so even if I don't like it, I will probably try some of his other stuff before I write him off as not for me, but I do think that this is going to be one I'm going to enjoy. And we're always here for a floppy, chunky fantasy book. You just can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. And that is the last fantasy and sci-fi book. But I'm going to throw on at the end here, I got the guide to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on Switch from my brother. It's kind of a game guide with all the details and different levels and items in the game, as well as maps and icons. And if you played the game, you know the map is absolutely huge. ×3. If you played the game, you know what I mean. This is a really, really beautiful book of an amazing game. That will do it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what was the last book you got in the mail or as a gift from Christmas. I have read a handful of these already, but which ones should I prioritize? And a huge thank you to my patrons who keep this channel alive. Over there is bonus videos, writing snippets of whatever I'm working on, and you also get to pick what books and then vote on what we read for the monthly book club. So thank you again, your support is huge. Thank you very much for watching. Outro. I was also sent